So, tubers, tubettes, and of course, crazy people. Are people bailing out of the Philippines? And if so, why? And am I going to be one of them? All right, stay tuned, and we'll go over that in the next video. So, are people, aka foreigners, expats, are they leaving the Philippines? And are they leaving in droves? Is there a new mass exodus of people wanting to get out of Dodge? And am I one of them? Have I had enough of having enough and need to go someplace new? Or is there just been the natural attrition that I've observed over the last 8 years that I've lived here, where some people, for their own reasons, leave and other people come in and take their place? I wanted to make sure I could back this up with some numbers, because liars figure, but figures never lie. And a couple of years ago, I did a little research into this very topic about how many foreigners lived here in Dumaguete. And the answer was 5,000. And the overall population of Dumaguete is 150,000 people. So a couple of years ago, expats made up approximately 3.3% of the population here in little sleepy Dumaguete on Negros Oriental. And yesterday I ran the same poll. All right, I researched it through our friends over there at Google. Guess what? The number didn't vary by much at all. Still approximately 5,000 people that look like me, and still approximately 150,000 people that are locals or native to the country. So, as far as a mass exodus, the numbers aren't reflecting that. Why, however, are some people leaving? And this is where you might want to sit up and pay attention, because this just might apply to you, and I might be able to save you a trip over here if they do. And for the record, I'm not going anywhere. I like it here. I'm settled in. I've learned to work around the differences and the obstacles that the Philippines does throw up in your face. And that's the end of that, in case you want to bail out of the video now. Anyway, I'll give you some examples as to why people leave. I would say one of the primary reasons is medical. I'll be the first to tell you that the medical care and the medical facilities in most of the Philippines, not all, are subpar, is substandard. The equipment can be outdated. The doctors are very good, but they seem to be far and few between. Emergency services almost don't exist out here where I live. And it gets even worse the further out into the province that you go. Granted, if you live in a big city, Cebu, Manila, they have many more hospitals. They're much more modern, and yet I don't think they're still up to snuff when you compare it to an American facility or a Thai facility. In fact, if I was to find out that I was sick and needed something done, I would probably choose Thailand first. But that would also rely on my insurance coverage, and could I afford to pay cash for it? Because eventually, if you've got a long-term or a chronic illness, the cash is going to be dwindled. And that is exactly why my friend Biff left the Philippines. Biff had gone to St. Luke's in Manila when he lived here. And he was just feeling crappy, no other way of putting it. And they diagnosed him with this and that, and the details of what they came up with escaped me. But they started treating him for this and treating him for that. And after a number of months, he still felt crappy. So he took the bull by the horns. He says, there's something wrong here, and they're not catching it. And this is at the Premier Medical Center in Manila. He went back to America, and unfortunately, they diagnosed him with leukemia. And so he is now residing there in Oregon and receiving leukemia treatments for the last couple of years. Him and I talk on the phone, not frequently, but often enough. And I just spoke to him about 3 days ago to check in on his condition. I'm happy to report that he's doing just fine, and that his wife and son have also been able to cross the border and join him in America. and they're doing fine also. His wife is working, his son's in school, and he's receiving the treatment that he needs. One thing that blew my mind when I talked to Biff was he was talking about how even if he could get medical care here that was sufficient, how he couldn't afford it. Number one, insurance, obviously. The Medicare and his Advantage plan is taking care of him beautifully. He's super happy with it. But what he told me really made me sit up and pay attention. There's one medication that he takes, and I believe he takes it once a month. I believe it's in pill form or an injection. And with his copay, it cost him $20 to receive this medication towards his leukemia treatment. In the Philippines, that one dose of medication, are you ready? $38,000. Yeah, you heard me. $38K for one dose. Medication over here is expensive. I took my wife to the doctor yesterday. She has a UTI infection. I think the medication was about $80, and that wasn't for a lot. That was for 3 painkillers, that was for 5 anti-inflammatories, and that was for a round of antibiotics. So not really all that cheap, especially if you've got insurance, which most likely you would, being our age, or my age, I should say, and you'd have the Medicare, maybe Plan B, maybe an Advantage plan on top of that, you can get by. My friend Bud Brown went back to America. Him and his wife Gloria had medical conditions. He paid $0 with his Medicare. Did his cataracts. His wife Gloria had some conditions, and they got her back up to snuff with the proper treatment, the proper diagnosis. I don't think, and I'm not speaking for Bud because I didn't ask him directly, but I don't think they would have had the same diagnosis, number one. And number two, I'm pretty confident they would not have had the same treatment. So, that being said, if you're watching this video and you're thinking about coming out to the Philippines, I would highly encourage you to do it because I think it's a great place to live once you get around the anomalies of it. However, if you are subject to or afflicted by, I guess I should say, any kind of illness, any kind of chronic illness, heart condition, immune deficiencies. I'm not a doctor, so I can't rattle them off the top of my head, but you know what you've got and what can be treated and what can't. And what are the costs of your medications if you're taking them on a consistent basis? And could you afford an extended stay in a hospital? Unless you've got some kind of travel insurance to cover you, and those are only good for so long, could you withstand that? I'll leave the answer up to you because you're the only one that can answer it. Another friend of mine that is leaving the Philippines, in fact, he just left yesterday, flew into Manila, and then he's going to be traveling over to South Korea, and then he's going to be going back home. He is 32 years old. He came over here with a nice lump sum of money, and I'm happy to say, because he was invested in the stock market, that the amount he came over with has increased, he said, substantially. I didn't ask him the numbers, since he's been here. And because the stock market keeps going up. I realize it's had its trials and tribulations in the last few weeks, but even with that hit, he says he's way ahead of the game. But he found that it was impossible for him to navigate over here and earn any kind of money. He tried the online stuff. He's a very intelligent man. He's very skilled. He's very proficient. His English is great. I shouldn't say his English is great. His vocabulary is off the hook. He is a great teacher. He's a great salesman. And yet he couldn't make a go of it over here with the online stuff. He did teach English to Chinese kids or something like that, but it wasn't paying him. And he had to go back to his house in the middle of the day to, match up the time zones. And Sometimes the internet worked and sometimes it didn't. So he was always in this kind of quandary of trying to make that work. And it was elevating his frustration level. He's also, I think, very intelligently decided that going back to the States and working anything, whatever it might be, it might be. I don't know what he's going to land, but he really wants to get in all of his credits towards Social Security because at his young age, he is not there yet. And so he knows that if he puts in enough time, he will get there, and he does want to be able to qualify for Social Security. And we're all optimistic that Social Security will still be around by the time that he's here to collect it. I know there's a lot of debate about that right now, but we'll just all have to see what happens now, won't we? And then my last little example is a couple that came over here. And she's a Filipina, born and raised in the Philippines. And he came over and met her. They had the typical fall in love story. And then he took her back to America. And that was, I think, about 20 years ago. And so they worked and saved their money, did a good job with all that, got their retirement lined up, had a oversized nest egg, if you want to call it that, when they came over. I call it a safety net. And got here, and they bought some land. They bought him a truck. They bought her a car. They got a motorbike. They rented various homes because every time they moved into a place, there was some kind of weird anomaly that they didn't care for after they lived there for a while, or a contentious landlord. So that was kind of a bug up their, you know what. And when they did get settled in after buying the furniture and the cars and the motorbikes and the land, turns out that she didn't like the Philippines. He's in love with it over here. This is his dream. And the only reason she's here, or was here, is because she wanted to make her husband happy. She wanted to give him what he wanted. She wanted to be a good wife. And she is a good wife. However, there's that saying that you should never take your Filipina home to America because they'll either become feminist or they'll become westernized. And she's not the same girl when you met her 20 years later. And I think that's fairly applicable in this case. I don't say she's a feminist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do believe that she just simply, between the two cultures and between the two types of lifestyles that they're able to enjoy as a couple, she really prefers America. She prefers the usual things that the Philippines does not offer. Infrastructure, healthcare, the efficiency of anything that you go to do. I'll be the first to admit that the Philippines people, while they are lovely, while they are friendly, while they are happy, while they are able to face adversity with a smile, while they have strong family values, they are not the most motivated group of people on the planet. No disrespect, and the reason I think I can get away saying that is because my wife fits that mold. There's just no sense of urgency. Everything can be done later. Everything can be done after a while. No sense in busting a move at all. Only highly supervised people in restaurants can get your order, get it right, get it turned into the chef, bring it out to you, and have an American-style experience in a restaurant where you actually place an order and then get the food all at the same time. And that is only in certain chains that exist out here. I could kill you with stories about bad service. I could kill you with stories about frustration levels of guys like me that are used to efficiencies, used to deadlines, used to people being on time, used to saying what they mean and meaning what they say. A lot of that just isn't part of the culture out here. I'm not going to change it. I didn't come out here to change it. I was hoping that the Philippines would change me. Unfortunately, it did. I'm a lot better off today than I was when I first got on the plane 8 years ago. But if you are the type of personality that wants things the way you want them, on time, quick, efficient, and just the way you asked for it, think again. It's not probably going to be a good fit for you out here. I've gone into restaurants where we've had to ask for a menu. I've ordered food where the waitress forgot to turn in the order because on the way from my table back towards the chef, she saw something on her phone, went over and started answering a message, laid my order down, and was texting her girlfriend or her boyfriend or some friend. And 20 minutes later, my wife went up and said, "Hey, where's our food?" And then she looked in, she goes, "Oh, I forgot to turn in your order." And got a big kick out of that. Well, that's not commonplace. That's another extreme example, but you can kind of find somewhere in the middle there where you're going to see that what you're used to and what you're accustomed to back home just doesn't exist out here. But do the pros outweigh the cons? I would say yes, but I think that's a topic for another video. In fact, I think that I might do that one next. The pros of the Philippines and the cons of the Philippines. So if you're coming out here and you're looking for some economic freedom, you can definitely obtain that out here compared to out west. It is maybe 25 to 30% the cost of what it is in America right now. And that's across the board. So that's rent, utilities, etc. Just for the record, I live out here very comfortably on my Social Security check. And my Social Security check is $2,233 net after Medicare is taken out. And my wife and I live out here just fine on $2,000 a month. And we've been able to save money. And that has given me, it's reduced the stress in my life that every month my little savings account has been able to grow over the last 8 years. So that's kind of the tale of three people. You've got Biff with the cancer. You've got my other friend who is 32 years old and has decided that, you know what, this was kind of like he gave it a shot. It turned into an extended vacation. Fortunately, he's leaving here better off financially than when he left, but he also realizes that he's just too young to try to come over here and make a go of it. And then the third one is the couple where they've decided they're just going to pull the plug. The wife is not happy. The old saying, happy wife, happy life, really applies. She did become Americanized, and she's used to those standards, and now he wants to accommodate her. They're going to go home, they're going to reorganize, and they're going to rethink the whole decision as to where and when and what and where they want to go. And I wish all three of them the best of luck. All right, kids, thanks for tuning in for my little video, and I hope to see you in the next one.